Hello, beautiful homemakers. We're continuing on with Pamphlet 3, Chapter 6, How to Overcome Fear. The best rule for maintaining such a pride, we're talking about self-respect, was propounded long ago by John Locke when he instructed us not to think meanly of ourselves and not to think meanly of others. Those who are timid, bashful, shamefaced, or backward will naturally concentrate on the first half of this rule, and those who are inclined to show arrogance or disrespect will concentrate on the last half. The first half, which will now be discussed in detail, requires you to associate as frequently as possible with the persons who abash you, thus overcoming your fear by familiarity, and requires, in addition, that you acquire the proper mental attitude toward yourself, thus convincing you of your equality with any other human being, and showing this equality in your actions and manner. So this kind of reminds me of when I was in high school, around age 18, driving age, and a friend of mine wanted to go to Rodeo Drive. And I thought, oh boy, we do not belong there. But I went with her, and we got there around 5. All the stores were closing, well, most of them. But we walked around looking in the windows of the shops, and there were a few still open. We went in, and then there was an art gallery that was still open. And my friend went in completely confident, and I'm thinking, again, we do not belong here. We have no money. We're poor. Why are we here? We are wasting this person's time. But the proprietor came over, and she started asking questions, and he started asking questions. And she was saying, oh, I like this. Tell me about this artist. And they had a great time. He knew we weren't there to buy, but he enjoyed the interaction just as much as my friend did. And I looked on thinking, wow, how does she know all this? And then we continued on our merry way and never went back. But it got me thinking about how comfortable she was and how I needed to get over my uncomfortableness. No shopkeeper knows how much money you have to spend in that shop. So then, a while later, I got used to shopping at places like Fashion Island and Newport Beach and South Coast Plaza and Costa Mesa. And in some of the shops where the prices were too high, I was still a little bit uncomfortable, but I did get used to shopping there. They also had some great bargain stores. In fact, at the time, the Macy's that was there, and the J.W. Robinsons, the Buffums and the Bullocks, they all had wonderful sales with beautiful clothes that were completely affordable for a college student. So I got used to shopping there and took a friend from out of town once. And she was like, I don't belong here. I don't fit in. And then I gave her the pep talk. Who says you don't fit in? Why don't you belong here? Anybody can shop here. You're not part of a special group to shop here. It's just a shopping mall. They want your business. They want foot traffic. They're looking for impulse buyers. So perhaps this next section of the book will go into, as it mentioned a little bit, overcome your fear by familiarity. If you think you don't belong in a place, start at a very fashionable boutique in the mall. I think gone are the days when people would treat you like they treated Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Today they know that many women who can afford to buy, say, a special, extremely expensive purse, they don't always dress that well. They dress so casual, but the salesperson doesn't know how much money they have to spend, so they treat everyone well. So you need to get over any hang-ups you have like this and just go for it. The next section is called The Way of Social Success. Among the first things to do is to remove all sense of inferiority, diffidence, and equality from your mind. You are just as good as the person who abashes you. You were born with the same eyes, ears, mind, tongue, and other properties. The only difference between you is that you do not think highly of what you are and have, while the other does. You are an independent being, a woman with a mind that can grasp anything, if it only will. With a soul as pure and glorious as any on earth, no person alive can boast more than this. When you see someone whom you are inclined to think superior, say to yourself, "Everything she has, I can have, if I only try hard enough to get it. Everything she can do, I can do, if I only try long enough to accomplish it. Just because she has done or can do things that I cannot, is no reason for thinking she is better than myself, for I haven't even tried. I am sure that if I did try hard enough and long enough, I would prove myself her equal in every respect. In short, when you meet someone with superior accomplishments, you can admire her for having put forth the effort necessary to acquire that accomplishment. But you need not consider yourself inferior simply because you have thus far not chosen to put forth the effort. In the most cultured society, we constantly meet with proud, noble personalities who have no particular accomplishment except their pride and respect that their parents instilled in them, or that they instilled in themselves. These people will applaud the accomplishments of the orator, the financier, the architect, the poet, and the geniuses of every description. Yet they do not themselves think, nor does anyone else think, that they are inferior to those whom they applaud. Look yourself in the face. No doubt you, too, have a talent which, with industry and perseverance, would become an accomplishment equal to any. If you prefer, however, to continue your varied interests, and not to concentrate upon this particular talent, is that any reason for supposing that you are inferior to those who do concentrate? For example, don't imagine, if you happen to meet an author, that you are in any way inferior to him or her because you have never been able to write anything. If you had worked as hard as he has, burned as much midnight oil, written and destroyed as many sickly and miserable attempts at writing, you would very likely be able to do a great deal better. If you have not chosen to waste your time in such pursuits, that is no reason for believing that the author is any better than yourself. Similarly, when you meet with what you consider highly polished individuals, being yourself perhaps rather awkward and sheepish in such company, don't let yourself believe that these sleek and polished socialites are any better than you are. It's interesting. Socialites is spelled Sociallights. If you had frivoled as much time in their miserable pursuits, had put aside all solid and substantial matters for inconsequential fopperies, you yourself might have been a far brighter social light than they. Never, therefore, let yourself imagine that you are not as good as everyone else with whom you come in contact. Never let yourself be deferential, or servile, or ingratiating. If anyone comes along who makes you feel inferior, deliberately study them and find the faults in them. When you see that he or she too has weaknesses and defects of character, even though those weaknesses are not the same as yours, you will realize that this person is not much more perfect than you yourself, and certainly not any better. But care must be taken that your self-respect does not approach egotism, conceit, or superciliousness. Though you consider yourself the equal of anyone, you must not consider yourself the superior. Otherwise, you will win ridicule instead of respect. If you have a proper pride and self-respect, you will never permit yourself, if avoidable, to appear at a disadvantage. You will appreciate that there are certain duties and a certain reverence which you owe to your own person, the first of which is that you be esteemed at your full value in any association. A proud and self-respecting girl will not permit herself to be handicapped by a slouchy hairdress, dowdy clothing, by coarse speech or vulgar manner. She will have so much pride in herself that she will study and work without ceasing until such defects have been corrected. She will pick out the defects in herself that keep people from appreciating her at her full value, and her pride will never rest satisfied until those defects are remedied. If she thinks she is not sufficiently familiar with social usage to appear at her best, she will get books on the subject of etiquette. She will observe and study until that defect is remedied. And I would highly recommend to you Myka Meirs' book, Modern Etiquette Made Easy. She also has a YouTube channel where she gives a lot of great tips, especially on proper eating etiquette. If she thinks her clothing is not worthy of her, she will learn how to be her own dressmaker and provide herself with better. It is amazing how just the basic of sewing skills can help you take in a hem or the side of a dress to make it more tailored, or to change out ugly cheap buttons for beautiful buttons that gives your fast fashion item a more tailored and expensive appearance. If necessary, she will be her own milliner, which of course, when this was written in 1922, everyone wore hats. We don't do that today, but a hat, especially in summer, a nice straw hat with a black bow, looks wonderful with most sundresses. If she is sensitive about her speech and thinks it betrays a want of education, she will provide herself with books on English or take extension courses from a university or community college, such as can be had at little cost nowadays. If a girl is sufficiently proud, she will find a way to win the esteem of all who meet her. Only when she has not sufficient pride to put forth the necessary effort will she fail to win the respect of her associates. My son is currently reading to me The Millionaire Mind by Mr. Stanley. He brought us The Millionaire Next Door, and he discovered that the majority of millionaires in America were high school or college dropouts. In high school, they got C's and D's. And as I'm raising my son, I have purposefully taken him to expensive areas where we then go out to eat at restaurants you can find all over. The prices aren't raised just because they're in a more expensive area. And there we can practice table manners. Of course, you should be practicing everywhere, but something about showing him different areas and then taking him to a nicer restaurant makes a young man want to better cultivate his good manners. In the same vein, I have also, throughout his life, made sure that he's involved with groups that have less material goods than our middle-class lifestyle. I want him to be comfortable and confident in every situation, and so I make him familiar with all of these situations. Another thing I've always done is if we ever have to visit any professional office, whether it be an accounting firm or a lawyer's office, I always take him with me so that he can see the offices and see how business is conducted. Occasionally, we've had to visit lawyer offices that are just up the street in this tiny little office, nothing grand. And other times, we've had to go to offices that overlook the ocean and are maybe in a World Trade Center. I want him to be at ease in whatever situation he finds himself. And that takes practice. If certain situations make you nervous, practice. The next section is called Removing Your Handicaps. Perhaps the most frequent cause among women for not being able to achieve self-respect and self-reliance is a lack of such material advantages as clothes, money, or a formal education. Many sensitive women, lacking one or more of these advantages, cringe in consternation before the malicious snobs whose only use of the same advantages is to mock and scorn the misfortunes of others. And I think that really only occurs in the young, really high school age. Most people have gotten over that. I never find it anyways. These execrable cowards seem to derive a fiendish joy from making others feel inferior. They no sooner sight a victim than they begin a parade of their possessions and accomplishments that would shame a savage gloating over his beads. Those sensitive and genuinely gentle women are always discomposed somewhat in the face of such rude barbarity. Most of them, with a little thought, can ultimately succeed in giving it the contempt and indifference it deserves. There are hundreds of women without her advantages, before whom the snob is helpless, and to whom she is obliged to pay unwilling reverence. These are the women who are superior to her vulgar tactics. You can, with a little effort, become one of these. Good manners mean you are more highly bred than the snob. The very sensitiveness with which you respond to the tactics of the snob is an indication that you, in reality, are of finer metal and more exquisite sensibilities than she. So long as you continue to show this sensitiveness outwardly, so long will the snob continue her coarse pastime of playing upon it. The minute, however, you stop showing pain at her jibes, she will lose all pleasure in making them, and will transfer her attentions to another. More, she will respect you for your superiority to her vulgarity. The snob cannot help feeling a wholesome admiration for those who are superior to her attack, no matter whether the superiority is due to material advantage or to an independent and proud attitude of mind. Your attitude of mind is really the most important factor in determining how either the snob or anyone else is going to treat you. If there is one particular handicap that is standing in your way, calmly look at it from all sides, make yourself see how little it really is, and see if you can't become contemptuous of it. There is nothing like familiarity to breed contempt of your handicaps as of other things. Suppose, for example, that you happen to be among people who are more fortunate than you, and the consciousness of your poverty is the particular handicap you have to contend with. Instead of merely thinking of the existence of this handicap and exaggerating in that way its importance, get down to brass tacks. Look at wealth and poverty from all sides. Prove to yourself that they are only two little things among hundreds of others equally important. Ridicule yourself for thinking they are the only things on earth to think about, when there are so many other and better things. Wrestle with the ideas of wealth and poverty for a few days, until you are so familiar with them that you appreciate their relative unimportance and can hold them in the contempt which they deserve. If you do have an inferiority complex when you are in a posh hotel, or when you feel like you're around people that simply because they have more money than you, there are easy ways to get over this. And one is, like I said, to go to a shopping center, boutiques, in a more expensive area than you are used to going in. You look it up online and say they have a Macy's. So you take a bag, and it doesn't even have to be a Macy's bag. It could be any cute little shopping bag, boutique bag that you've saved from somewhere, from one of your vacations, etc. And you take this bag and you just put your own sweater in it. Then you're not going in empty-handed, and you'll feel less conscious. Another way to get over feeling self-conscious is to go to a posh hotel. You're not there to stay. You don't have to go up to where you check in. You just hang out in the lobby. You check your watch. You wander around. You visit the gift shop. And then you leave. And you'll realize, oh, that wasn't a big deal at all. This happened to me when I was visiting someone. She was taking me around where there were private beaches. We had no business there, in my opinion. We were just driving through. But before cell phones, and we needed film for the camera because I had just run out, she said, well, let's stop in at this hotel. It was so beautiful. It was exquisite, overlooking the water. And I walked in and thought, oh my goodness, I've never been anywhere like this. It was like stepping into a castle. And she very confidently walked over to the gift shop. And I'm looking around at all the architecture and the pictures, and she bought our film, and then she took me around the whole place. She had probably stayed in places like this many times, and so to her it was no big deal. Also, don't think that you'll stand out by looking at the architecture. People come and visit these places just to see them. They expect looky-loos. So you don't have to overdo your delight or amazement, but if you're just there to admire, that's fine. Everyone working at that hotel expects people to do that. So after this experience of being treated really well in a hotel that I normally would not have ventured into on my own, I was in San Diego with my husband and discovered that he had never been to Hotel del Coronado, where they had filmed Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe. I had toured there as a child with my parents, and I wanted to see it again. We discovered that to park there was a resort fee, so we parked elsewhere and walked, and we entered the hotel, and were just like anyone else checking in. I wanted to see the old caged elevator where one of the Heart to Heart episodes was filmed. I wanted to see the electric lights that Thomas Edison himself had put in. And as we walked around and talked to people, we discovered that there were a few rooms that had been turned into a museum from all of the films that had been shot there, including Marilyn Monroe's Some Like It Hot. And then we went exploring in the hallways and the different levels of the hotel. And it's really beautiful. And of course, when they were cleaning some of the rooms, we got to peek in. We got to see the dining room, which is absolutely incredible. You should definitely look up the Crown Dining Room online. It's a beautiful hotel to tour. Basically, I just got over my feelings of self-consciousness and realized I may have been awed by all of this as a child, but as an adult, there is no reason not to feel comfortable in any situation. We are welcome everywhere, and if you feel that you're not, you just need to go and practice. Well, I'm sorry, as usual, I have talked way too long. So in the next video, we'll have to talk about winning without money, and then your clothes and you. Bye!